Greetings, humans! These are the movies I saw over the weekend. As within a review, this may contain spoilers. Protector. Good lord, this was bad. There was one bad thing after another. Nikki, played by Milla Jovovich, is an ex-soldier whose daughter is kidnapped by a criminal organization specializing in sex trafficking. Chloe is Nikki's daughter, and it's her 16th birthday. She sneaks out of the house to meet her friends at a bar. Let's presume she's using a fake ID since we don't see that. She talks to a stranger at the bar and tells him that she's 16. They both laugh about it. Super hilarious. He drugs her and drags her through the bar to a car in the parking lot located behind the bar. Where are the friends, you may ask? Of course, they're outside in front of the bar for some reason. Nikki uses her daughter's phone location and gets to the bar. She confronts her friends asking where Chloe is, and the friends give her a snarky remark telling her that she's with so-and-so and he's a good guy. Who wrote this trash? The dialogue is the worst thing about this film. Everything that I spoke about or will speak about does not compare to how bad the dialogue was. From the beginning of the story, when Nikki talks to her daughter over video phone throughout the years while in deployment, and then when she retires from service, all that dialogue felt forced and uncomfortable. There's a running theme throughout the story, and that is 72 hours. As Nikki narrates, the first 72 hours are the most critical in a missing person or kidnapping investigation. She sets her watch to 72 hours, and no matter how tired she is or physically hurt, she can't afford to rest for a single second. What does she do to combat getting tired? She takes a concoction of coffee, soda, and some type of pills. I don't know why I found that funny, but I just did. Next to the dialogue, some of the action sequences were terrible. There's a sequence where Nikki jumps out of a two-story window onto a moving car. This sequence was unbelievably dumb. Let me paint the picture. The car she's chasing has her daughter inside, who's been kidnapped. Nikki, running after the car, sees that the car is going to make a left turn. She runs full speed up this house or restaurant, I don't remember, and jumps out the window and lands on top of the car. It would be one thing if Nikki got to the window first and saw the car coming her way. She could then try to time the jump with the car. That in itself would be highly difficult and unlikely, but with her running full speed and still timing the jump was so stupid. There were two instances of the use of body doubles or stunt person that made me laugh inside. The first happened when Nikki was running after the car that I just mentioned before. Even though the camera wasn't up close, the stunt person's body and hair looked completely different from Milla Jovovich's proportions. Maybe the way the scene was shot made it seem like a stunt person was used, because I can't say for certain that it wasn't Milla running, but it sure looked like it was a different person. The next instance of the use of a stunt person took the cake. Nikki hits this older guy who looks to be in his late 50s or early 60s with the skateboard, and that makes him fly in the air off the ground. The stunt person looked to have a physique in his 20s or 30s. We don't see the face, only the body flying in the air from behind with the camera angle looking up. That was a masterpiece of using a bad body double. The movie is only 90 minutes long, but it felt like 3 hours. The ending has a twist. It took an already bad movie to the next hemisphere, and it made it even worse. I don't want to spoil it. I'd rather you watch it. It's that bad. If I'm going to suffer, I want you to suffer too. While I didn't like the movie, that doesn't mean you wouldn't, and it may be worth watching. The Bride. What a mess of a movie. The story is scattered with too many ideas. Having two quote-unquote monsters wasn't enough. The story incorporated a Bonnie and Clyde subplot. You have Frank, played by Christian Bale, who arrives at a scientist's house and pleads with her to make him a companion from a dead corpse. He's lonely and is seeking a partner like himself, someone who will understand him. Despite her initial hesitation, the scientist agrees and they dig up Ida's corpse, played by Jessie Buckley. At first, Ida is confused, but once she gains her bearings, she and Frank begin to get closer and closer. Her past from when she was alive resurfaces, and this causes a bunch of problems for Frank and Ida. They are now on the run not only from a crime boss, but also from law enforcement. As their infamy grew, Ida, aka the Bride, inspires women across the country to fight and gain their independence. This felt surface level because you only see a few scenes of women protesting on the streets. You never got the sense from the story that the Bride's actions were inspiring to women. I think what was missing to make this more believable was scenes of women rushing to the newsstand to follow the Bride's story, or have newspaper articles flash across the screen, implying that the Bride and Frank are becoming famous. The story is set in the 1930s, and so the newspaper would be the medium through which information would be spread, along with the radio, but the newspaper was more prominent in the story. Meanwhile, you have Frank, who is obsessed with movie star Ronnie Reed, played by Jake Gyllenhaal. Frank, who imagines himself as Ronnie Reed, was a good touch because he sees himself as a monster, but when he's Ronnie Reed, he's beloved. With him meeting Ronnie Reed in the story, it felt far-fetched. What really derailed the story for me happened from the beginning. The bride, before and after death, to the outside world suffered from a mental breakdown, a double personality with a touch of Tourette's. Unbeknownst to everyone, including Ida, she gets possessed by Mary Shelley, the author of Frankenstein. That was really bizarre because throughout the story, we get monologues of Mary Shelley, who is also played by Jessie Buckley. I understand that she possesses Ida, but I think it would be clearer for the story and for the audience if Mary Shelley were played by another actor and served as the narrator. Having Jessie Buckley play Ida, the bride, and Mary Shelley was a lot to keep track of. There are also two detectives who I'll mention briefly, played by Peter Sarsgaard and Penelope Cruz, and they didn't work at all. She always had the best hunch and knew exactly where to go to find Frank and the bride. As they say, you have to follow your instincts. Peter's character had a connection to Ida, which came out of nowhere. That storyline did not have to be a surprise. That should have been revealed from the beginning, and this would have made the detective plot feel better integrated in the story. While I do think some people will enjoy the movie, I'm not one of those, but it may be worth watching. Hoppers, I really enjoyed it. It has a quirky sensibility. Not gonna lie, I got emotional at the end. This addressed one of my biggest gripes about animated movies that feature talking animals. In these types of films, the animals always get along and no one tries to eat each other. It's as if they all become vegans, but the real reason for this is to cater to kids and not scare them off with their favorite animal getting eaten alive on screen. What the filmmakers did in Hoppers is address it head on and basically tell the audience that in this world, animals eat each other just like in the real world. In the story, they call it pond rules. When you gotta eat, you eat, and if you get caught and become food, then that's on you for getting caught, and no one is blamed for eating another animal. This becomes a lesson for the human protagonist Mabel, who uses a technology that allows her consciousness to be transferred to a robotic beaver. Now that she is able to understand and talk to animals, which is never explained how exactly she can do that, she forgets how the animal kingdom works and wants everyone to live in harmony without harming each other. She tries to impose her beliefs on the animals throughout the story, and this becomes a learning lesson for her. In fact, there was a great scene in the movie that made the audience gasp, including me. This is spoiler territory, so you have been warned. After arranging a meeting with the Animal Council, Mabel warns them about the human Jerry and his plans to expand the freeway, which will impact the animals. She persuades them that Jerry is so much of a threat that they decide to assassinate him. In her desperation to convince them not to murder him, Mabel accidentally kills the insect queen. Not only was this unexpected, but also emphasized to the audience that this was no ordinary kids animated film. The movie does come from Pixar, who tend to incorporate adult themes in its animated films. So those were my thoughts on these films. What did you think of the movies? Leave a comment down below, subscribe, give the video a like, and see you in the next review.